Hello there, and welcome to another live chapter reading for Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Today I shall be reading from Evil Sushi by C.A. King. Chapter 1. There was nothing better than ocean air in the morning. A little sea spray was exactly what the doctor ordered. It cured all that ailed. Inhaling even the tiniest amount of the briny mist cleared the sinuses and the mind. That's what made life in a quaint coastal little town special. That's what kept people rooted there, even in the worst of times. Treacle was the epitome of small fishing communities and had been for centuries, standing the test of time against the three bustling East Coast cities bordering it. The people who chose to live there had heard the call of the sea, agreeing wholeheartedly to answer it without question. They understood there were some things that couldn't be learned in a classroom, traditions and skills which were handed down from parent to child, a certain know-how only years of experience could provide, and an understanding of the ocean which was unmatched. The water was calm, perhaps too calm. Underestimating the ocean was a mistake only land dwellers made. Still, it was the rising sun that usually had the final word on a subject. Generations of fishermen had looked to the skies to predict the day to come. A red sky in the morning was an universal bad omen in any of their books. Rod's was no different. The first sight of orange on the horizon sealed the fate on the day. It wasn't worth the risk to head out of port. Rod stood staring at the decaying boat. It needed repairs over places that had just been repaired. If business didn't turn around soon, he'd lose everything. And he wasn't the only one either. There was a whole row of fishermen in the same boat as him. Not literally, of course. They all had their own vessels, each in equally as poor state of repair. He watched his friends and neighbours preparing to set out against the sun's warning, in hopes of a good haul. All of them knew the odds of that happening were slim to none. There was little choice for most. There were mouths to feed and bills to pay. Back in the year 2020, everyone had applauded the decision of the combined nations for opening up international fishing routes. The population was growing, and fishermen's incomes were dropping. Something had to be done. The vote seemed right at the time, even to him. It ended up being one of the worst decisions in the history of man, though, and that's saying a lot. The truth was, after that, the oceans fell victim to being stripped of life, all to feed a new generation of mouths. Need trumped what could one day happen. Studies were only theories after all. Hunger was a fact. The green movements had maxed themselves out, their masses becoming complacent with government initiatives to save the forests and clean the oceans of garbage. No one cared that they were murdering all the life below the surface. In fact, no one even noticed until it was too late. Amusingly, the whole issue could be tracked back to one generation's obsession with blaming cow farts on all of the world's problems. The ozone was depleting, gas from cows was to blame. The polarised caps were melting, heat from cows farting was to blame. Sure, there were studies, but not once did anyone try to gauge how much damage flatulence from humans was causing. They just laid it all on the cows. Environmentalists were happy to jump on the bandwagon. Beef and other meats began disappearing from grocery stores around the world. All of a sudden, tuna was the new T-bone and salmon the new sirloin. It was a gold rush all over again, except with trout. Everyone and anyone became a fisherman that year, many leaving jobs in lumber farming and other obsolete industries to set foot on a boat for the very first time. The water was filled from dusk till dawn, pulling in the catch of the day. Fish, like any other resource, wasn't sustainable being harvested at that rate. It didn't matter though, everyone wanted a piece of the pie. The more sea creatures caught, the more the world demanded. There were bellies to feed and bills to pay. Any time the little guy made the slightest headway, big corporations were sure to jump in, and this was no different. Large black boats began making their presence known, grabbing whatever they could from the oceans. Making a buck quickly was all they cared about. They harvested and moved on, like parasites. There were, of course, a few positives that came from that era. The air was cleaner, the land greener, people recycled more, and plastics were banned. Buying another wasn't a solution. Marine life was becoming extinct, and it wasn't merely one or two species either. It was all of them. What was a man to do, though, especially when he'd sunk everything he had into a boat and fishing gear? It wasn't as if he could simply toss it all away. Life didn't work that way. No one cared what happened to their neighbours when they had their own families and bills to pay. "Hey, Rod," an older man called out, tossing a rope on the dock. "Grab that for me, will you?" Rod raced to catch the end tying off the small boat. "You're in early, Ned. Did you have any luck out there?" he asked. Small talk was merely a formality. He already knew the answer. The fish, if there were any, weren't biting. "Nah," Ned replied, scratching his head. "I thought I'd get the jump on things, but then they showed up." I nodded to a fleet of large black boats just off the shoreline. "Ain't nothing left when they come poking around. It's a real mess out there this time." He tipped the single container filled with his catch for the day, making the contents visible. "Most of it's not fit for sale." Rod shook his head. "You never know, the demand has been crazy lately. A lot of businesses will take whatever they can get, especially restaurants." "I'll give it a try," Ned said, "but I'm not hanging around begging, no. The price ain't right. This will feed me and my own this week." He grabbed a hose, washing down the deck. "You thinking about heading out today?" "I was," Rod admitted. "I might hand back. There's a good chance the winds are going to change in a few hours. With the price of fuel being what it is this week, I need to conserve. I'm thinking about converting old Bessie to a hybrid. It would cut my overhead in half." "That's the name for a horse, not a boat," Ned complained, chuckling. He'd been making that same joke for years, and probably would continue to use it until the day he passed on. "Are you sure the changes are worth the cost?" "That's the best part," Rod replied. "If I do the renovations myself, it won't cost more than a few bucks for wiring. I looked out doing a scrap metal run. I came across a fella upgrading his solar panels to fancier ones. I just picked up the lot he was chucking." "Well done," Ned praised. "Let me know if you need an extra hand. I'm staying in for a few days, maybe more." "Any plans?" Rod asked. "Nope," Ned admitted. "I guess I'll be applying for another grant. Doubt I'll get one, though. Most of them are going to folks working to stop the pole caps from melting. Things sure changed in 5 years, didn't they?" He shook his head, walking away, still carrying his single cooler. "It might be time to hang up the old hat. Stop by later if you want. I know Sally would love to see you," he winked. "She won't wait forever. A gal needs strong arms to hold her at night." "I know," Rod replied, a sigh hanging on his words. "I just wish I had something better to offer her." "You're a good man," Ned answered. "That's all she wants from you. Think about it. She's one catch you don't want to let get away. It's not like there are plenty of fish left in the sea, if you know what I mean," he chuckled. If there was one thing Ned was good at, it was making the worst jokes. Rod just stood on deck, deciding which way to go. Men just like Ned were a dime a dozen, all washing the shore with sour faces and complaints about the lack of sea life in their nets. There wasn't a solution. Even if they had all agreed to wait to let life replenish itself, there'd be one asshat in this bunch who wouldn't abide by the decision and ruin everything. One was too many, especially when men were out of work and going hungry. It wouldn't be fair to the others, and just like that, the whole deal would be off. It was government bickering all over again, but on a smaller scale. Rod took one final glass at old Betty and called it a day. He had enough fuel for one more extended trip. Saving it was a better idea. He'd get the solar panels up and running and have gas as a backup, in case something went wrong on the open waters. He rubbed his neck, which was stiff from worry. A little rest and relaxation went a long way in his profession. Maybe Ned was right. A visit with Sally was always perfect for lifting his spirits. The weather agreed with his choice, grey clouds swirling as if God himself had blown them to that exact spot. The first boom of thunder started the race. Who would win? Men packing up their things, battening down the hatches and taking shelter? Or wicked waves white with fury bashing against the sides of vessels? Rod never bet against nature. I hope you enjoyed the reading and that you'll go check out the book. Thanks very much for watching. Bye-bye.